Top story at this hour, Pakistan violated the understanding to cease military hostilities with India just hours after it was announced. Indian armed forces responded to these repeated violations in the appropriate manner. In a late-night briefing, India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri said that Pakistan has been violating the agreement with India for hours. The briefing came after drones were sighted and intercepted in various locations in Jammu and Kashmir, including Srinagar and parts of Gujarat as well.
For the last few hours, there have been repeated violations of the understanding arrived at earlier this evening between the Directors General of Military Operations of India and Pakistan. This is a breach of the understanding arrived at earlier today. The armed forces are giving an adequate and appropriate response to these violations, and we take very, very serious notice of these violations. We call upon Pakistan to take appropriate steps to address these violations and deal with the situation with seriousness and responsibility. The armed forces are maintaining a strong vigil on the situation. They have been given instructions to deal strongly with any instances of a repetition of the violations of the borders along the international border as well as the line of control.
Now, the violations followed after the announcement of an understanding between India and Pakistan to stop military action against each other. According to sources, the ceasefire with Pakistan is conditional, and there is no change in India's position on the diplomatic measures against the neighboring country, including the suspension of the Indus Water Treaty. Now, the understanding came into effect at 5 p.m. local time on Saturday. However, just hours after the announcement, drones were sighted and intercepted in Jammu and Kashmir and Gujarat. Now, Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister posted a video of drones being sighted and air defense becoming active. Now, earlier, India said the Pakistani Director General of Military Operations called his Indian counterpart when understanding was reached to stop military action against each other. Shortly after this, India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar put out a message on Twitter saying that India has consistently maintained a firm and uncompromising stance against terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, and it will continue to do so. The news of the impending ceasefire first came from U.S. President Donald Trump, who took to Truth Social to put it out. Trump said India and Pakistan have agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire after days of heightened tensions and cross-border attacks from both sides. Now, the ceasefire came after days of intense conflict between the two nuclear-armed neighbors. Now, India launched Operation Sindoor on May 7th in retaliation to the Pahalgam terror attack that killed 26 people. Now, let's now again listen to how things developed within hours. The first statement is the announcement of the ceasefire by Indian Foreign Ministry, while the second statement comes close to midnight after fresh drones were spotted in Srinagar and other areas. Listen in.
Both sides would stop all firing and military action on land and in the air and sea with effect from 1700 hours Indian Standard Time today. Instructions have been given on both sides to give effect to this understanding. The Directors General of Military Operations will talk again on the 12th of May at 1200 hours.
For the last few hours, there have been repeated violations of the understanding arrived at earlier this evening between the Directors General of Military Operations of India and Pakistan. This is a breach of the understanding arrived at earlier today. The armed forces are giving an adequate and appropriate response to these violations, and we take very, very serious notice of these violations.
India and Pakistan have agreed to an understanding to stop military actions following 4 days of intense cross-border fighting. Now, but will this hold? Earlier, we spoke with defense and strategic experts about this. Listen to them.
First of all, I'm disappointed. I never thought this ceasefire will last only a couple of hours, because normally when two DGMOs are talking to each other, a man in uniform to another man in uniform, I think there is a certain amount of trust, certain amount of faith in each other being military men, and they need to honor it, especially if these agreements have been arrived at the highest level in the two countries, where both the prime ministers were party to it. So what I see here is that there is a lack of intention on the part of Pakistan. Maybe there are fissures between the Pakistani political leadership and the military leadership, which has led to this impasse.
Look, so like we said, we are waiting and watching, and let's see what happens. Because if this is a divide within the Pakistani army, which is manifesting itself in this action, then I'm afraid we are looking at a very major action within Pakistan in the next 24 to 48 hours. Pakistan is not a stranger to coups, for example, not a stranger to all kinds of upheavals between the political leadership and the military leadership. So if there is a division which is leading to this, interestingly, I looked at 3 Pakistani newspapers just before we came on air. None of them is mentioning any action on the line of control. So there is obviously, some hesitation there. Otherwise, if they were to blame us, they would be the first ones to say that we have violated the line of control. Neither the Dawn, nor the Pakistan Tribune, nor the Daily Times, none of them is mentioning a single word about this violation. So something is going on.
No. Well, you could view it in any way, but just remember, when you announce a ceasefire politically, everyone wants to get his last round in. Everyone wants that I know it's ceasefire now, so what can I do in the next 24 to 48 hours? It's a human thing. Just remember, 2 boxers in a ring, the bell rings, before the referee stops the last punch, one of these guys is going to try and make the last punch land. Just for physical effect, just for moral ascendancy, just for any kind of effect which says, okay, ceasefire, I've been asked to stop, but I can still do this. Let's not worry too much about it. Let's watch. Nothing has changed on ground again. Let it stop itself. Then we...
Today, Pakistan stands bailed out by the IMF and by India. So it should acknowledge with gratitude the statesmanship which exists in our country. So that is the first aspect of this ceasefire which has come about. And I hope as it proceeds, it lasts, because there's always suspicion about Pakistan, the country that it is. Now, how do we take forward? How has it come about? I think it is the power projection which India gained in the last decade plus. The political will, the creation of assets, be it the comprehensive national power, be it the military strength. I think India has come a long way to dictate terms, to be accepted in the global arena as a power that matters, and in South Asia as a regional power